Todd Haynes at this point is probably most widely known for his previous film Carol, which was released in 2015. And there are not enough words in the English language that can describe how much of a marvel Carol was, and that is the reason that I went and saw Wonderstruck completely blind when it came out. I absolutely knew nothing about this film. I just knew that it was the new Todd Haynes film. The story is structured in two timelines that interconnect. The first part, or what we'll call present day, which is actually set in 1977, is set around a young boy played by an actor called Fegley. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. And his mother has just died. He's never met his father. And when he finds a clue in a book, in one of his mother's books, about the possible whereabouts of his father, he runs away to New York. The B story, or the second story, is set in 1927 and follows a young deaf girl who takes the ferry from New Jersey to New York in order to meet up with a famous actress, in order to see a famous actress perform in a play. And we very quickly learn that that actress is her mother, that she doesn't really get to see all that often. So like I said, I went into this movie totally blind, which is always a nice feeling because you go into it with the absolute least amount of preconceived notions possible. And while I was watching the film, and the great majority of the film that takes place within the Natural History Museum of New York, I was overwhelmed with this feeling of watching basically Night at the Museum as told by the writer of Hugo Cabret, or Hugo, the Martin Scorsese film. And sure enough, the writer of this film and of the novel on which this film is based is Brian Selznick, and he is the writer of the Hugo Cabret book on which Hugo was based. So that makes absolutely perfect sense. So it's essentially a children's film, and it tackles all the themes that you would expect from the great children's films, whether that be friendship, parental relationships, death, loss of a loved one. And it really does all of those things very well. And for a children's film, it actually takes quite a bit of risks. Obviously, first of all, you have the structure, which is non-traditional. Nothing revolutionary, obviously, when you're watching it with adult eyes, but I'm guessing that when you're, 9, 10, 11 years old, you probably haven't seen many movies that are structured like this. But also in terms of directorial choices, the film in large parts is basically a silent movie. All of the 1927 scenes are shot black and white and silent, so they're sort of period appropriate, but also they're character appropriate because, like we said, the main character is deaf, and so everything is shot from her point of view, if not her point of hearing. And that's mirrored in the 1977 scenes when the young kid loses his hearing. He loses his capacity to hear after an accident, and there's a portion of that film, not the entirety, but which is sort of shot again from his point of hearing, so the colored 1977 scenes are silent as well until he is able to communicate through actually writing down on a piece of paper, and at that point the movie lets the spectator actually hear what the characters are saying. So a huge part of the film is told very much visually and through music, and the music by Carter Burwell is absolutely fantastic. Carter Burwell is essentially known for being a Coen Brothers regular. The 1927 scenes are scored with this sort of very classical, very melodic piano music. It's very beautiful. I don't know if it references anything in particular. And the 1977 music is absolutely awesome. It's a reorchestration of Deodato's Thus Spoke Zarathustra. So what that is, it's basically the music from 2001, the Richard Strauss, that's reorchestrated as a funk song, and it's absolutely glorious, and I loved every second of it. So the film as a whole is an absolute delight, and it's really the sort of kids movie that you'd want your kids to see. and such a refreshing change from most of the, industrialized, bottom of the barrel garbage that is generally fed to kids. And maybe I'm totally wrong on this because I'm not an expert on children's movie in any way right now, but it does feel like most children's films, and at least the good ones right now, are animated, and it's just refreshing to see a really solid, really good, really delightful kids movie.